What is going on with the real estate market right here in Sonoma County? I get questions all the time. Danny, is it a good time to buy? Should I even be considering a move to Sonoma County right now? Well, in today's video, we're gonna be going over all of the data so you can make a more educated decision whether or not it's a good time to buy. Okay, so what we're looking at right here is basically all of Sonoma County's data in one place. All of this data comes from the MLS, so all of these numbers are accurate. This is how everything gets recorded right here. So what I did is I went ahead and put in Sonoma County, and this is gonna go ahead and show basically everything current. So we'll just walk through a couple of these slides. The more important ones, definitely don't wanna bore you with the boring ones, but here, you know, a good place to start if you're thinking about buying a home is look at days on market. This is gonna give you this is gonna be a good indicator of whether or not it's a good time to buy right now. You know, you can show like how much, you know, maybe you're gonna have to spend, whatever the case is. So this is a good place to look right here. And what you've noticed is, you know, back in January, February, it was taking on average 65 days for homes to sell. Now that's from when the property's listed, from when it cycles all the way through escrow. Escrows vary, usually they're around 30 days, depending on the type of loan you have, but so that's what this number indicates. 65 days is basically from list to close. So as you can see here, it slowly started to kind of come down a little bit. And what that usually means when homes are selling a lot quicker than normal, it's because there's not a lot of homes available for sale. I know I've said this a million times, but we'll look at the months of inventory here in just a minute and I'll kind of show you guys what the current problem in Sonoma County is right now. But looking at this, you know, we're in kind of, you know, the hot time, so to speak, for people to buy and sell. It's always in the summertime. Spring and summer months is usually the hottest time that we see here in Sonoma County. So right now on average, it's taken about 35 days for a home to sell, which is pretty typical. Usually this number does fluctuate about 30 to 40, sometimes even higher than that. But what we noticed back in January and February was this is when they really started kind of ramping up the interest rate. So I think everybody kind of put a stop to things. So homes were taking a lot longer to sell. You know, prices were starting to drop a little bit. As you can see up here, the sale price versus original list price. That means, you know, if a home is listed for $500,000 and it sells for $500,000, that's gonna be selling at 100% of list price. So what you're seeing here, back in these days, January, February, 93, 95, 96. So that means homes were selling under asking. And again, that's because of interest rates. They started to kind of come up. We were at 3% last year, and then all of a sudden we're now hovering right around the 7% mark. So the market has changed significantly, but right now, again, 35 days, homes are selling at 98% of the list price. So, you know, it's so crazy to kind of see how things have changed. I mean, if you look all the way back here, you know, last year, June, 102% of list price, homes were selling in 32 days. The month prior, 29 days at 104%. So just crazy to see how quick things can change. We can keep it moving. Here, I'll just jump 2 months of inventory now, kind of show you guys what I was talking about earlier. So normal market, a buyer's market is anything, you know, 1 month to 5 months of inventory. And what that means is homes, if every single active property in Sonoma County were to sell, it would take, right here, the number is 2.2. It would take a little over 2 months for that home, for every single home to sell. So, you know, seller's market, 1 month to 5 months, neutral market, 5 to 6 months, buyer's market, 6 months and plus. Obviously, looking at the data here, we haven't been technically in a buyer's market for a long time. But this is, you know, that's a good indicator of that, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of context on that. So, you know, 2.2 months, obviously it's come up a lot over the last several months. And that's typically, you know, again, what happens during spring and summertime. Everybody wants to buy and sell in spring and summer. There's pros to that and there's cons of that. But 2.2 months is still, honestly, it's nothing. It's not a lot of inventory at all. So if we look back here to median home price, I always like to look at this, kind of put everything into perspective, just to kind of see where the market's at. So right now we're at $824,000. Now that's fluctuated quite a bit this year, from $710 back in January all the way up to $824 right now. And this is the median price sold. So $824, it is high. It's significantly higher than it's been. But if you look back in December, November of last year, $810, and then if you look back earlier, $820. So we're still kind of right where we started around this time last year, but there's no doubt about it. Things are getting more expensive in Sonoma County, and I say it all the time in the videos. I think over time, people are slowly going to start gravitating towards Santa Rosa, you know, Windsor, Healdsburg, the cities further north. And I think that's simply based on cost of living, and inevitably that's going to raise cost of living, right? More people moving here, that's just going to make prices go up and up and up. But, you know, we saw it a few years ago in Petaluma, especially even during COVID. You know, everyone was living in San Francisco and Marin and some of these more expensive cities. They figured out they could work at home, so they relocated to a more affordable place, you know, compared to where they were living, and that made Petaluma's numbers just go crazy. So I think that's slowly going to kind of start happening over the years in Santa Rosa and more of the other cities further north. But this is an impact of that, right? We're going to slowly kind of start to see prices come up. And I get the, you know, going back to days on market, I always get the, you know, people talking about, Danny, I don't want to buy a house right now if I'm going to get approved at a 7% mortgage. And I hear you. Trust me when I say I hear you. And it's hard to wrap your head around such a crazy interest rate when just last year they were at 3%. But here's something to consider. If you are waiting for interest rates to come down to 3%, what do you think other buyers are also doing? They're waiting, right? Everyone wants to wait until things are a little bit cheaper. And ultimately what that does is it makes more demand in the market. That's when you're going to start seeing homes sell, you know, just a couple days on the market. Prices are going to go through the roof again. Things are going to be selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars over the list price. So you're going to basically, you know, technically speaking, you're going to be overpaying for that home just simply because of all of the pent-up demand. You're not going to be the only person that wants that house that got pre-approved at that low interest rate. They're going to go in there, they're going to give them their best offer. Then that one listing is going to get 15 to 20 offers, and that's going to raise the price up, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to technically overpay for that home. Maybe you're going to spend, you know, $100,000 over the asking price just to get your offer accepted. And what that's going to do is that's going to lock you in that home for 2 to 3 to 4, 5 years until you can recoup that equity that you just essentially threw away, right? So that's scenario A. Scenario B is, let's say you get into a home at a 7% mortgage rate. You know, let's wait until the winter time where, you know, homes aren't selling quickly. We will see days on average jump up in the next couple of months, typically, because that's what it always does. If you look back here, December of last year, 54 days on the market was the average. That's a long time, right? So if you wait, you know, maybe interest rates flatten out a little bit. Let's say they stay at 7%. I'm rambling, but let's say they stay at 7%. Prices kind of slowly start to come down. Inventory comes up. There's more options for you to buy. You buy a home at 7%, the home is listed for $500,000. You're able to secure that same home for $450,000 simply because there isn't 100 people writing offers on that house, like there would be, and there always is, when interest rates are low, right? So now you just secured the home. Yes, you have a higher mortgage payment, but you didn't overpay for that home. In fact, you got a deal on it. You got $50,000 off the asking price. And then in a couple years, when things turn around, because look at all of these graphs here, everything goes up and everything goes down. That's the normal way a real estate market works. So when things come back down again, you're able to refinance that loan and fix that interest payment. You're able to get a lower interest rate, and then you may even be able to pull out a little bit of equity in the home and refinance, and we can go into that obviously at a later date, but it's something to consider, right? Waiting until things get cheaper isn't even, it never really works out that way, because you're going to overspend on the home but you have a cheaper interest rate versus today buying a house with a more expensive interest rate, you can always refinance your loan and you can never renegotiate the asking price of the home that you just bought, right, in the future. So something to kind of think about. You know, I know looking at this data and these numbers, it gets kind of crazy starting to, rationalize, is this a good time? Is this a bad time? I always say to everybody that reaches out to me, it's a good time to buy real estate when you're ready. It's a good time to buy real estate if it's a good time for you, right? You have to look at the long-term play here. You're gonna be in this house for 2 years. It's probably not a good time for you to buy right now. Are you gonna be in this house for 15 years? Absolutely. My wife and I bought our house 2 years ago at the height of the market, probably overpaid for the home, but we're gonna be in this house for 15 to 20 years until my 3-year-old son is old enough to decide whatever he wants to do, right? So even if we overpaid 2 years ago, we're gonna see equity come up. We're gonna see property values come up over time because historically in Sonoma County, prices go up. Prices go up, especially over that long of a period of time, right? 15, 20 years, it's like, who knows? It's gonna dip a little bit, it's gonna come up, and whatever the case is, you're not losing any money until you sell your property at a loss. So something to consider. I know there's several different things to think about when you're buying and selling, but I hope this video was useful. I'm trying not to ramble on too long here, but if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out, call me, text me, email me, whatever's most convenient for you. My first step when anybody reaches out is setting up a quick Zoom call, 30 minutes, just to kind of go over a couple things about you and see if it's even a good time for you. So all that contact info popping up, that's my direct line. Call me, text me, email me. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.